morning, everyone. This is Abby Doherty, and I'm just going to give you a brief overview of adult education and professionalism as it relates to the creative art therapies and counseling. So just to start off with, we know that coming into graduate school, is its own transition beyond just learning about important concepts as they apply to our professional identities. And so we just like to give some orienting material on how the classroom experiences you've had previously might be similar or different from the classroom experiences that you'll have now at Drexel. You may have some professors that use more typically what are more considered pedagogy related teaching methods, meaning that they may rely more on providing you information via lecture or traditional methods of teaching. And you may have more educators that draw from andragogy, meaning adult-based teaching methods. And here, the learning is really driven by the student and what they want to learn, what they think is relevant, and reflecting on their past lived experience and how that applies to their current situation. And what's really most important is that to understand is that you're going to have teachers on both end of the spectrum, and we value having multiple perspective and approaches to education in our program. And so we just like to let you know that you'll have a full learning continuum of learning experiences within our program. And we specifically design and are guided by our educational standards that we draw from our each of our professional disciplines. I encourage each of you to take a moment and go look up the educational standards for your degree. It's important to know, and you'll see why why we're providing you the education that we are. Something that we'll be talking about in the future is this idea of counseling state licensure, and your counseling material is really designed as much as possible to help you meet state licensure. And your master's degree is really your entry level, foundational experience. We often refer to the foundational experience of getting a master's degree as 5 to 10% of all the learning that you'll do. And this is such a rich field, and it does take quite some time to become, or not to become an expert, but to have expertise. And when we think about adult education and professionalism, one of the things that we know about learning is that the more sensory information coming in, the easier it is going to be to remember that information and to apply it in varying environments. And so you can expect that you'll be moving up and down this hierarchy here from reading to doing in order to help you to retain and gain mastery over the concepts that you're learning. And so that might mean that you will have opportunities to engage in group dialogue. When we are post-COVID, we will go on field trips, do hands-on work, certainly individual and group presentations, and you'll do quite a bit of also passive learning, reading, listening, and observing. And traditionally, we seek to have you first read, if there's an opportunity to watch something, and then to apply, and then to work through any difficulties in that learning process, because learning is not static. We are lifelong learners as creative art therapists and counselors. One thing that we know can happen, especially in our accelerated program, is that, a lot of fears can come up. Students may have some fears around an inability to keep up. It's just feeling like too much. This is a pretty drastic change in terms of learning environment for many of you. And we're moving away from, what has been your comfort level. You're going to be introduced to all kinds of new concepts. At times, some students can feel overwhelmed by the amount of knowledge they have to digest. But don't worry, our students make it through. You will graduate. And Part of becoming a counselor in CAT is learning to sit in our own discomfort and not react to it and work through it. And just to really think about your learning experience as a way to help someone else work through their own fears around learning, because it's a pretty common experience. And if you have a learning disability, please do not hesitate to reach out and advocate for your accommodations. This is just about having access to information in a different form, and we welcome uh, and try to promote inclusivity in the classroom. So what do you do when you're feeling stuck? Well, first, we really want you to take a moment and just reflect. Take a pause. The program is rigorous and it's fast, and so there's going to feel this need to kind of keep going. And really, what I can say is that the students who tend to persevere and experience less distress are those that take a moment to pause, reflect, set up their learning environment, come up with a learning strategy before implementing it, consulting with a peer, consulting with a professor, coming from a place of recognizing that most people have best intentions, and that it can take some trial and error to figure out what might help you to become unstuck. And of course, life stressors. We're all experiencing COVID right now, and of course, there's a madrid of issues that can come up while you're in graduate school. The most important piece about this experience that I can emphasize to you is just to make sure that you're being proactive in your communication. If you're being proactive in your communication and you're touching base via email, by phone, or whatever method your instructor prefers, you will be successful and you will move through your stuckness. Please know that we want to communicate with you about your learning and your well-being. There'll be different points where you meet with an advisor or your program director. Sometimes that person is in the same role for both. And we'll communicate to you about your strengths, areas that need to improve, thinking about your well-being. We certainly work as a team. We take a strength-based approach to learning as a team, and so when we see students struggling, we may support one another in terms of wanting to support you having a positive learning experience. And just know that that's a critical part of the way that we work in this program. We value relationship. And when we're thinking about professionalism, I just want to introduce you to some real basic ideas about what it means to be a counselor. Uh, it's just not, I often ask a question in my class, why not go see a hairdresser as opposed to a counselor? It might be cheaper. My hair is going to look great afterwards. Why go see a counselor? Well, counselors and creative art therapists, we develop and seek to improve our professional dispositions. And these are specific to our profession. So respect, warmth, taking a non-judgmental attitude, being empathetic, working on being more transparent and authentic, being congruent, honoring each other's humanity, that we're all fighting a battle that we might not be showing or demonstrating in our affect, how we're looking. And so to come to each other from that positioning, taking time to self-reflect. Most important, being open to feedback. One thing to know is we are asked by our professional ethics code to be gatekeepers to the profession. And that means not only helping to develop you as a professional, but also making sure that if you're really struggling with any kind of situation, that we can support you leaving the clinical site to take care of yourself. And again, that's not meant to mean, not meant to be detrimental to your learning, but to support you. And also, we are required to support the clients that you're providing services to. So we need to be aware of, the quality of care that you're providing. And finally, all of this really comes down to the ways in which we're engaging in self-care. And are you doing things on a daily basis to soothe yourself, maintain your relational boundaries, thinking about the quality of your thinking? Sometimes in addictions counseling, when we're doing a lot of negative thinking, we call that stinking thinking. And all of that can influence the quality of learning experience that you have and how you perceive your experience. And so part of becoming a clinician is constantly monitoring your self-care. In fact, one thing you'll learn about it is that that is a part of our ethics code. Uh, you're going to be doing some different kinds of writing than you've done in the past. Graduate level writing is working on your paraphrasing, synthesizing ideas. We highly recommend downloading the app Grammarly. You will need the APA 7th edition book. Please assume that all writing in this program is to be completed in APA, and to ask any clarifying questions from your professors about how they may interpret that. And you're going to need a lot of different strategies than you may have needed before. I highly encourage taking all of your course outlines and putting them into your Outlook calendar at the beginning of the year so that you get regular reminders. Drawing pictures, meeting in study groups. The more sensory information that you can bring into your learning, the greater you will do. And with that, this is a lifelong process. And so when you're struggling, again, take that time to pause. And when in doubt, look for the helpers. We're here to support. Thanks for listening to this tutorial on professionalism and adult learning.